Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I had a couple video ideas planned for this weekend, but of course plans never work out for us. We're in the process of transitioning from our old shop to our new shop, which still isn't done yet, but has way more room to work with. And I had planned a CNCjs introduction video today. The very basics, stuff for the first day beginners that they're afraid to ask, that I was afraid to ask, that I went ahead and asked anyway. Small problem though. As I get ready to cut last night, I noticed that my Shapeoko won't home in either carbide motion or CNCjs. Looks like I have a bad Z limit switch, which means I can't really use carbide motion at all unless I flash it back to an older version. But what I can do is use CNCjs. I just won't be able to home the machine. I'll have to do it manually. So that's what we're going to do today. So sit back, hang tight, and let's get this rocking. First thing we got to do is get CNCjs downloaded and installed. I'll add all these links down in the description below so you'll have them. First, we're going to go to our GitHub page so we can get to the latest release of CNCjs. Once the page opens, you're going to want to scroll down. You'll see the download section, which they call assets, and download the version of Windows you're using, or Mac or Linux, whatever you're using. I'm using Windows 64. So we'll download, open that up, and if you get this message, just click that. Once it's done installing, go ahead and open up the page. This is your home screen on CNCjs. To connect to your machine, make sure your machine's powered on. Hit the refresh button and you can scroll down and look for your Carbide 3D LLC, which is your Shapeoko, and then connect automatically and open. When you get the screen here in your console, when you get all your parameters there, that means you're connected successfully. Now you'll notice at the top, once you connect, it has an alarm. Well, that's because your machine hasn't been homed yet. Normally you would hit home and your machine would home. But in my case, where my Z limit switch is broken, what I'll have to do is actually select unlock. But first, let's get our macros set up. So now we're going to get our link to our macros page and put that in your browser. So this is your home page to Neil's goodies here. Lots of good stuff here. The two main ones we're going to use are the bit setter and the Carbide 3D touch probe. So you'll notice on the bit setter there's two macros here. You'll have your initial and you have your new tool, and you're going to need both. So what we'll do is we'll start with our initial, and what we do is we go to the bottom and just select all of it all the way back to the top. We're going to right click and copy. Go back into our CNCjs and click on the plus to add a macro and paste it right here. And name it our initial. Now also on this one, we'll have to tell it where our bit setter is. Now I happen to know where mine is, so I'm going to go ahead and push in my coordinates, but don't freak out. I'll show you how to get your coordinates where it's at here in a minute, and then it's easy to update your macros. So once you get those put in, you can go ahead and select OK, and that'll save your macros. Now let's set up our in-game tool change, I like to call it, which is basically anytime you're in a program and you want to change your tool or change your bit, this is your new tool. You can name it whatever you want. That just kind of helps me keep track of it. And we're going to do the same thing. Go to the bottom, copy it all, select all the way to the top. Now we'll select plus to add a new macro, paste our commands in here, and on this one we don't have to change anything since we set up the placement of the probe in the first one. Give it a name and select OK to save. Okay, the next one we're going to set up is our touch probe, is our Carbide 3D touch probe. So we'll back up, go down to our C3D axis probe, and the same thing, we're going to go to the bottom, select all of it, copy that, and then bring it back over into CNCjs. Again, we'll add another macro, paste it here. Now you'll notice this macro is set up for a 1/8 end mill. I normally don't zero with a 1/8 end mill, so I'm going to change this to a 1/4 inch end mill. Just it's more beneficial for me because that's what I normally have in there, and it just kind of helps me from having to switch bits a lot. And then name it. And you can create multiple macros with different size bits. You can do the same thing and copy this macros and then edit it to a 1/8 end mill, so you can use whichever end mill you have. Save that, and there's your 3 macros right there on the side. I'd just like to add a quick note here. The forum link that you see here, those are some great people on there that are always willing to help. Okay, now let's go and download our post processor for our vCarve that works with our CNCjs. So again, we'll use Neil and we will go to his post processor site, and CNCjs works really good with millimeters. It does not do so well if you export it in a post processor that is inches and you try to run it. You can design it in inches if you want, but when you run your post processor, just make sure it's in millimeters. So we're going to download the files, go ahead and extract them. Now we can open up our file. Pay no attention to that top one. That one was already in there for me, so I'm going to delete that and get it out of the way. This is what you'll open up. And the one you're going to use is a Gerbil millimeters. And I usually rename it just so I can keep track of it. But this is the one that we want to copy and go drop in our post processor file in our Vectric. So we'll go into vCarve and go into our application data folder, and we'll go into our my post P and we'll paste it in here. Be sure you exit out of vCarve and then reopen it if you want that to show up. You'll have to close the program and come back into it. So now we need something to cut, right? So we need a test cut. So we're just going to use the TNT Creations logo, and we'll just make it match our little piece of wood here. Set our dimensions, and that's what we'll cut out. We'll get it centered up in our stock. Set up our tool pass real quick. We'll add just a quick box around the outside, just something that we can use a straight end mill on, just so we have a bit change. Set up our tool path for our 1/4 inch end mill. Do a quick preview just to see how it's going to look. And I know, guys, I am going step by step, and a lot of times I'll skip all this, but this is for the first day beginner, so I'm trying to show most of the little steps also. Now, quick note with CNCjs, you'll notice that as you hover over here, the tool numbers show up on the left, 302, 302, and 52. Well, CNCjs does not like anything over 255. So after we export this, we'll go in and change the tool numbers. You see here it shows you there on the left hand side again right before you save them. Now make sure you scroll down and select your Gerbil millimeter tool change. That is the one for your CNCjs. Save your G code. Edit our G code, we'll open it up in Notepad, and you notice the M6, the T commands. The T is your tool number. Again, CNCjs won't accept anything over 255, so this one will have to change. And it's just as simple as backing it out and putting what number you want. 1, 2, 3, whatever, anything under 255, and we'll go down and check the second tool to make sure that that one was a 52, I believe. Yeah, so 52 is under 255, so we're good. So now that that's done, all we got to do is save that, and now your tool numbers are set up. Okay, so this is how we're going to have to do it. So we're going to take it all the way over. The Z-axis is all the way up. Try not to go too fast because it will generate some electricity and kick into the machine. Okay, so from there, what we're going to do is go ahead and power on your machine. And we're going to go ahead and zero out our workspace, which in this case, the machine workspace. Let's connect. Now wherever you power on the machine, it's going to assume it's 000, so make sure you're in the back right corner and set up before you power it on. So when you power on, you'll see your machine position read 000, and we can go ahead and unlock our machine. Again, normally you won't have to do any of this, you just hit home, but this is just for this situation. Now what you want to do is find your bit setter position. So we're going to scroll it down Now one thing you will notice is CNCjs doesn't have smooth jogging. That is coming in a future update, I've been told, but as of now it does not, so you'll see the jerky motion here. So there, I'm centered. And again, you can see those are my coordinates that I use for my bit setter, so they're good. And if you wanted to check them, since we have a bit in there, we can go ahead and run our initial bit setter. Alright, so now we want to set up, we want to use our touch probe. And it works just like it does in carbide motion. Set your probe in the corner, make sure it's over the lip. And you want the same thing, you want to make sure you get it down to where it's just above the circle. That's good right there. And again, don't forget your ground plate. So probe on over the circle. We'll come over to our touch probe. And we're going to use the 1/4 inch in there. Zero. Now what I like to do is install the first bit that I'm going to use. I will use my 1/4 inch to zero everything out. And my first bit's going to be a V bit. It's kind of hard to do touch probe with a V bit. So now I'll go ahead and change the V bit. I want to verify my 0, then we'll just make a quick cut. Be sure that when you do your tool change, you select the in-game tool change macros. Just like in carbide motion, you have to actually tell it that you're changing the bit, or it won't know to recalculate your depth. So now we can go ahead and open our G code. Open the one we just saved earlier, and there it gives you a representation of what the G code is going to look like. Just like in carbide motion, it's going to ask you for an initial tool change, but you don't have to because you've already set that up. Use this time to install your dust boot, and you can go ahead and start your spindle. Once you have your dust boot on and your spindle started, you can hit play again. This time it's going to ask you, are you sure did you get your tool change done? If you hit yes, it's going to resume the cut. As you cut, it's going to follow along on the visual representation on the screen. It's pretty close. It's a few seconds off here and there, but it gives you a general idea of where it's at and what it's currently doing. At this point, you'll see a blue pop-up on the bottom that says it's time for a tool change. First things first, shut the spindle off. Then you can run your in-game tool change, which will raise the spindle and bring it over on top of the probe, where you can change your bit. Remove your dust boot, then go ahead and change your bit. With your new bit in there, go ahead and hit continue so it can do its probing cycle. Now go ahead and put your dust boot back on, put your vacuum hose on, and go ahead and start your spindle. When you've got it all done, hit the play button again to continue, and your cut continues. If you would have had another tool change, again, it would prompt you right here. You can go ahead and go through your tool change, but this was the only ones that I had, so this was the end of the cut. So now you can shut your machine off, hit OK, and you can get it out of your way. If you've never cut with CNCjs and you were hoping to get into it, I hope this video helped you. It's a little long, but it's long for a reason. I wanted you guys to see the little steps to hopefully make you feel a little better about getting into it. Let me know if you want me to do some more of these. I've only been using this program for roughly a week, and I've still got a lot to learn on it myself. So as I learn, I'll be happy to pass it along to you guys. Thanks for supporting the channel. If you haven't subscribed already, please hit that button. Once we get over 100 subscribers, we're going to start giving away some projects. So we're getting really close. Have a great day. Try and enjoy your quarantine. Happy Easter, and we'll see you in the next one.